Hi everyone, this is John Jenkins again. I just wanted to come to you this morning and bring you a new fallacy. And the majority of these fallacies I've discovered just in the past month. So, and as usual, I've already checked Wikipedia, and this one isn't covered already. So, uh, this I'm calling this fallacy the albino fallacy. I might, I might change the name if people think it's too offensive, but I call it the albino fallacy. And some people might say, well, John, this isn't a new fallacy. They already have this one. It's called moving a goalpost. And basically, basically, moving the goalpost is when somebody makes an argument that when somebody gives evidence that supports their argument, and you come back to them and say, "Oh, your evidence isn't premium enough. Your evidence isn't on a high enough level. You know you just you just you just gave enough evidence to prove your point. You need to give enough evidence to be to make it infallible, like God mode or something like that. Um, so 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 that's moving the goalposts. But this albino fallacy that I have discovered is a little bit different in that it's not more evidence. It's specific kind of evidence. Basically, the albino fallacy is when somebody I nicknamed this fallacy the no imagination fallacy, which is basically somebody tells you that you are not allowed to use your reasoning skills, your predictive ability, and your imagination to extrapolate possible outcomes to make an argument. And you know, basically, and it's a little hard to tell you the definition. I got to use the example. And basically, you're arguing with somebody, and this person thinks you're stupid. You know what I mean? So basically, what happened was I was arguing with this guy about slavery, and my argument was my argument was that sure, the North came in at the end and fought the Civil War, but for the first 300 years, they were uh, complicit in slavery, as in they condoned it. They many northern presidents had slaves either before they got in office or during their terms. Um, and there was slaves in the north. It didn't spread in the north as much because it wasn't profitable because they couldn't grow uh, cotton and things of that nature in the north. So but I mean it was one hand washes the other as far as slavery concerned. The North, the northern banks, collected, northern banks sheltered the money of the slavers in the South, and basically the North didn't protest the slave trade, and in that way it was complicit. And this guy, this guy thought I was stupid. What he said was, we argued back and forth, right? And finally he says, you know what? I'm tired of you and your uh, predictions and your, what should have happened, what could have happened. You know, uh, I'm coming at you with uh, facts, and facts are irrefutable. And the fact is that the southern states made a stipulation that they wouldn't join the union unless slavery was allowed in the southern states. That was their stipulation for joining the union. And don't come at me with your predictions or your what should have happened, what could have happened, and come back with facts. Uh, uh, but you know, uh, what? Uh, uh, Basically, he probably thinks to this day that he won that argument. But he didn't realize the albino fallacy, which I understand now, is that uh, what separates a human brain from the brain of a squirrel or a roach is the fact that is the fact that we can uh, uh, we can't predict the future. We don't know like which stocks are gonna go up, or when World War III is gonna happen, or you know but we we can, in the sense that if you see a guy rob a bank, chances are he's gonna go to prison. I mean, some of them get away, but for the vast majority of them, you can predict that he's gonna go to prison, basically, and that kind of predictive sort of mentality, you know, living responsibly, uh, uh, living responsibly might not mean that you don't like die of cancer, or getting run over by a car. It might not mean that you become the next Bill Gates, but you can predict that your life would be better, um, than if you had not lived responsibility under the same circumstances. As in, it, even if you had gotten run over by a car, or died of cancer, your life up until that point would have been better if you lived responsibly. Even if you uh, uh, did end up, homeless, your life up until that point, and even going through homelessness, would be better if you lived responsibly. And that's what separates the human brain from the animal brain. And that really, I mean, the founding of this nation, why they emphasize people's rights, uh, as opposed to government rights or the monarchy's rights. Well, because they could predict that that if they didn't do that, they were going to end up in the same situation that they were running from in England. So, the whole point of the human endeavor is to use our imagination to solve problems before they happen. As in, uh, you know, a squirrel, this is probably a bad example, but a squirrel who lives in a tree, well, it's all good for as long as the weather is favorable. But a flood happens, a tornado happens. They don't have like weather resistant tree branches that that squirrel's gonna get blown away or it's gonna drown. And so you know it's us as humans who can build a house that's sturdy enough to withstand a tornado, or build a concrete basement, or a storm shelter, or to have to predict that there's going to be a flood, so you build a sewer drain system throughout the entire city, so that no matter where the flood happens, it all drains out to the Chicago River. So our brains as humans give us the ability to predict things before they happen and to solve problems. And so, when this guy tells me, you know, fact, then fact that the southern states made a stipulation to join the union that we must have slavery. Now, what I said was, they could have, the northern states could have rejected them from the union, and if the southern states still insisted on slavery, then the northern states could have invaded them from the beginning. And that was the last I heard from the guy. And I'm sure, I'm sure he, I'm sure he thinks he won the argument because he used a one fact, and I'm assuming that's the only fact he knows on the subject. If it is true, I haven't checked it out. But it's like, if you wanna solve a problem, and as a human being, and have it, if you want to solve a problem, and have it be something that is a rule that you can live by, well then then the fact is that you know in no area of our lives is it acceptable to just go along with somebody just because they gave you an ultimatum, or just because they just just because somebody else did something doesn't automatically mean that you have to go along with it just because they did it. And you would think as a black man that, I mean, I'm assuming that the guy was black who made that argument, but you would assume that a black man understands that if you have a house, right, and your homie who just went to prison for armed robbery, who's doing uh, uh, who was sentenced to like 30 to life for armed robbery, and he shows up at your house, 3 months after they put him in, and he says, "Look, dude, I just got out of prison. I just tunneled out of prison, and now I need to stay at your house, right?" And he tells you up front that he just escaped from prison for armed robbery. He's supposed to spend the rest of his life in prison, and you say, "Okay, you can come stay at my house. You can live. I'll give you the spare bedroom. I'll make you breakfast every day, and you can watch my TV and all this other stuff. And I open up a bank account in my name to store your, robbery money that you hid before the trial, you know. So, you know, you let him, you accommodate him, you uh, condone his behavior by, helping him and not reporting him to the police. And then what happens? The U.S. Marshals knock at your door, you know, um, and of course you say he's not here, but they hear the Call of Duty going on in the background, and somebody's yelling headshot, headshot. So they investigate, and here it is. This guy convicted of bank robbery, armed robbery, is sitting in your house playing Call of Duty online. You know. So what? So I wonder. You know, when they put him back in, what do you think is gonna happen to you? Well, you're going to you're gonna be sitting in the cell, not not in the same cell block, but you're gonna be sitting in prison for harboring a fugitive. You know, so to assume that if somebody else does something wrong, then you have no obligation to then you have no if somebody does something wrong and you are you know implicitly or explicitly complicit with them, you comply with them, you help them, you abet them, you harbor them, that you are somehow absolutely free of any responsibility. And that's really the essence of that's just an example of the albino fallacy, and and uh, uh, you know um, it's a I don't know how common it is, but let me know what you think. Is this do you like these fallacy videos? I'm sure on the internet I'll come up with a whole bunch of different fallacies, but this is the only one I have for you today. Don't forget to check out the rest of my fallacy videos and comment, whatever. Have a nice day, and bye.